Hi folks, thanks for joining me on this sweltering hot summer day. We're going to try to figure out what the hell is going on together. Feel free to leave your insights in the comment section below, because I tell you, the more I learn, the less I know. And I guess that's just what the fog of war is all about. Now, we have a lot to talk about. Some terrifying developments on the World War III front. Some catastrophic developments on the economic front if you live in the West. Anyways, we have some mixed messages coming out of the Gazprom situation for Nord Stream 1 and whether or not Europe is going to be left in the dark this winter. We have a situation developing at the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe that nobody is talking about. We also have a very, very terrifying development in the Middle East, well, if you're Israel and the United States and the West, and that is this right here. Look at that handshake. Look at that handshake. That's more than a handshake, okay? That looks like an inseparable strategic partnership. That's a $40 billion handshake right there. The first flight out of Russia since the war started, he goes to Iran. Okay, that is huge. Why is it so huge? Because they just inked a $40 billion deal to send gas to the East. It's a slap in the face. At the same time you have this Gazprom stuff going on, they are now going to start shipping all of the gas that the Europeans thought that they needed. See, this is the thing. You know, we have such a ethnocentric view of the world. We forget that 7 billion people and growing, our populations are in decline with the exception of the United States. And I say our, I mean the West. The Western populations are in drastic decline from Russia as well. But it's the East that is growing. That's the future market of the world. And the Russians know it. This is why they're going to lay some pipe through Iran. That didn't sound good. Well, maybe there's a bit of truth to the sexual joke there as well. But Russia's going to be laying pipe through Iran. They're going to be kicking $40 billion into the Iranian gas industry, which has been stunted by sanctions. So this is a massive slap in the face. Now, this is important too, because this means that Russia has a $40 billion investment in Iran, which means that if people start messing with Iran, then Russia's going to have to join in. You know, it would make sense that that would be the case, right? So I don't know. Israel and the United States must be planning something at this point. I mean, they're going to have to do something. The American empire is in decline. I'm going to do a big video about this, but you know, the ship is sinking. We're at that point in the Titanic where it's already broke in half and it kind of fell back into the water, so it's flat, and then right before it kind of like capsizes, or whatever they call it, where it starts sinking downwards. That's where we are right now. So it seems like, you know, things are relatively level, but it's not level at all. Everybody's fleeing to the American dollar because it's the only thing they know. Everybody's abandoning all the other currencies, which are being left in the wake of the pandemic and all of the other disastrous stuff that's going on in the world. People are, you know, fortifying the American dollar. That's why the American dollar is so strong. It's not actually that strong, and it's on the brink of people jumping ship in mass. This union between China, Iran, Turkey to some extent. I mean, Turkey's in there like a dirty shirt. Look at that. That is crazy, because they're the ones who've been sending all these drones to kill Russians. So I'm confused, to be brutally honest. That's what I mean. We don't know what the hell is going on. Only these elites know. But what we do know is that the world is changing, and we are no longer the center of the universe. And I think that we're going to start making moves quickly to try to slow this down, and that's not good, because that means war. That means a lot of war is coming on the horizon. China has also issued a warning to the US. This is probably one of the most significant warnings that I've ever heard them say, okay? They've basically said that Beijing demands that the United States immediately withdraw the arms sales plan to Taiwan. They want to ship like $108 million worth of armored vehicles and other various technical assistance and military implements, okay? And they said that they need to halt all other such arms deals and cut military ties with the island. Otherwise, the U.S. side will be solely responsible for undermining the relationship between China and the U.S. and the two militaries and the peace and stability of the Taiwanese Strait. The Chinese People's Liberation Army will take all necessary measures to firmly defend the national sovereignty and territorial integrity and resolutely thwart any form of external interference and separatist attempts from Taiwan independence. And so what they mean is they're probably going to have some kind of naval blockade that's going to prevent a lot of this stuff from going in there. Maybe even some kind of no-fly zone. Okay. Now this supposed transaction hasn't really been greenlit yet by Congress. It still needs congressional approval. But Ned Price has dismissed China's concerns, claiming that the U.S. has certain obligations to supply Taiwan with the means to defend itself, and that it is entirely consistent with the One China policy. If you don't know what the One China policy is, it's Chinese idea that, you know, Hong Kong, Taiwan, it's all part of the same thing, even though, you know, I guess Taiwan considers itself to be independent. There was that war in the 40s, 50s, and they broke apart and yada, yada, yada. So that situation, just waiting to pop. So I'm telling you guys, like, there's so much stuff festering under the surface right now in the Middle East. Israel is ready to make a move on the Iranian nuclear power plants. Putin goes and visits Iran at like the height of these tensions. That's saying something, okay? That's sending a message. And you have Iran, who is allegedly, according to U.S. military intelligence, planning on supplying Russia with military drones. So you're talking about a very, very strong strategic partnership by two of the world's biggest energy producers who are likely going to leave Europe in the dark. And then you have Iraq, you know, it's a cesspool of instability. Yeah, I mean, it's not reliable. Yes, they got a lot of oil, but it's not reliable. I mean, the whole place could just, you know, flare up at any time. So it is not looking good for Europe. Now, on the Nord Stream front, we're getting mixed messages about this whole Nord Stream situation. Okay, and we're going to talk about the nuclear situation. The biggest news, I can't even, you know, triage this information to you in the right way today because there's just so much stuff going on, but we're just going to bounce around. I know the whole situation with Nord Stream is on a lot of people's minds. So why is this so important? Well, if Europe can't get gas, their industry is going to shut down. People aren't going to be able to heat their homes. There's not going to be electricity. It's just going to cause a major, major problem. And there's going to be riots in the streets because that's the only way to keep warm this winter. That's why it's so important. Now, what's happened with Nord Stream is there was a planned shutdown of this major pipeline that ships the majority of gas to Germany and through other places in Europe. And there was this planned shutdown for annual maintenance. Russia needed this turbine from Canada. Canada wasn't going to give it back. They said, okay, we'll give it back. And they still haven't had guarantees that they're going to get it back. Now, two very good sources, according to Reuters, claim that the pipeline will start back up on Thursday, albeit at reduced levels. Okay, so levels that it was at on July 11th, which was like 60 or 50% lower than usual. Now, Russia claims that that reduction is due to mechanical issues, I believe, and not solely due to, not as a response to the sanctions, but we don't know. Fog of war, right? But you have other sources saying that the European Commission is planning for the worst case scenario, for the gas not to be turned back on. So that makes me wonder that even if the gas gets turned back on Thursday, are they preparing for the war to intensify? And by that, I mean Ukraine doing this counteroffensive, you know, targeting Russian naval vessels in the Black Sea, targeting Crimea with these long-range HIMARS missiles, which would, of course, be Judgment Day, according to some Russian officials, in terms of the response that they would receive from Russia, targeting decision-making centers with zircon, supersonic, hypersonic missiles. I mean, the whole situation could just flare up real quick. And that's why I think that we're getting these mixed messages. I think I've always thought that there was a high likelihood that Russia was going to turn the gas back on, but Europe is clearly priming its population to get ready for some deindustrialization, because that's where they're going to first take the gas from. Okay, they're not going to take the gas from the homes that need it to heat themselves first, because there'd be riots in the streets. What they will do is they will ration stuff that was supposed to be going towards industry, and the bulk of natural gas is used for industry. So what does that mean? That means that even if you have heat flowing to your home, you might not have a job, okay, to pay for the heat that is going to be rerouted to your home. This is why they're talking about warm-up centers and all this kind of stuff, okay? So natural gas is so critically important. Energy is such a critical cornerstone of development and industrialization. And the Russians are just like, look, we have this massive market in the East. So this chess game, we're losing the chess game right now. We are totally losing the chess game. And I, like I say, I don't know what the geostrategic importance of Ukraine truly is. It must be really important if we're willing to throw everything away for it. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna give our leaders the benefit of the doubt and presume that it's not just war racketeering and it's not just all about, you know, defense contracts. Because if it is, man, is that incredibly stupid, because we're sinking the ship. Scary, scary times, guys. So no matter what the outcome of this Gazprom situation is, it's clear that France, Germany, Europe is preparing to go without Russian energy, which is going to mean a drastic reduction. It's going to be years, decades before, you know, nuclear power and all these other things come online. And even if you do get nuclear power, it's much less efficient to heat places through electricity than it is through gas and combustibles. So, I mean, we got some big problems ahead. So that's as much as I know about the Nord Stream situation. We just really don't know. We know that there was a solar storm, a big solar storm, a terrifying solar storm, as I heard it called in some of the reports, that was supposed to hit us today, that I think is hitting us right now as we speak, and was supposed to cause some problems with GPS and various satellites. I'm not sure if that has happened yet. Coincidentally, we also have a transformer catching fire at the Hoover Dam, which, you know, who knows what that is. Is that just, you know, aging, poorly maintained technology? Is it a result of cyber attack? Is it a result of the water levels being so low and the drought? Is it because of the solar flare? You know, the EMP effect, or not the EMP, but the the electric induced transformer fire, whatever you want it. You guys know what I'm saying, right? So, yeah, we don't know, but just one more thing, right? One more coincidence. When all this infrastructure starts catching on fire, you know, right around the time when we're beginning World War III, then I think it's, you know, it's safe for us to speculate that it may be some kind of cyber incident. We also have London burning down. Interesting. History always gets a return, doesn't it? London is burning down as huge fires surge on UK's hottest day ever recorded. Interesting. Very interesting, isn't it? Now, the problem with the whole green thing, you guys know I'm one of the few people in the preparedness community, and you can disagree with me. We can agree to let's just agree to disagree. We can agree on everything else with respect to prepping. I've looked at the science. It's getting hotter. Yeah, I've heard a grand solar minimum, blah, 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 blah. I've heard it all. Okay, I've had the internet too. And but the problem I have with the whole thing is that when Bill Gates and when all these guys come out and say, you know what, I'm going to downsize. I'm going to get a Prius. I'm going to sell all my homes. I'm going to live like the minimalist that I want you to be. I'm going to live in the underdeveloped state that we want the rest of the developing world to stay in that state of arrested development because of this whole climate change thing. You know, when they do that, when Klaus Schwab comes out and says, look, you know, I'm going to go live in a yurt when he does that, then I'll start looking at it more seriously. I'll start saying, okay, maybe this isn't just about a way to control people. I mean, and the thing is, both things can be true. This is what I've been trying to say for the longest time, is that you're going to have these crises that are happening. They're very real, but they're never going to let a good crisis go to waste. And apparently, and this, you guys, I'm sure maybe you have more information on it than I do, but this Klaus Schwab guy that everybody, seems to be talking about, he's like, it used to be George Soros, now it's Klaus Schwab. He's the, the leader of the New World Order. Apparently he's only like worth 7 million or something like that. Like $7 million nowadays ain't a whole lot of money, guys, in terms of, global elites. Now, maybe he's got some money hidden in some Swiss bank somewhere. I'm sure he does. But maybe he's just a poster boy for the whole thing to draw fire. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, where else should we go here? What else is going on? Okay, we talked about the Iranian situation. I believe we talked about the China situation. Yes. The nuclear power plant, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the biggest power plant with 6 reactors in the thick of the war in Ukraine, is currently under Russian occupation and has been so basically since the beginning of the war, around March 5th. Now, the Russians have recently started installing some missile batteries there, and they're doing this, I mean, probably for obvious reasons. I don't know the reasons exactly, but I'm assuming it's because they're going to use the nuclear reactors as a shield, because they know that the Ukrainians, unless they're really dumb, won't fire on the nuclear reactors, because that would spell the demise of Ukraine. I mean, we're talking about a Fukushima on a whole other level. Okay, this is a very, very big nuclear power plant. I'm pretty sure it's older, so I don't know if they have all the... and plus it's being run on a skeleton crew of guys who are being held against their will. Apparently there's 500 soldiers there. I don't know exactly what the situation is. I don't know how it works. I don't even know how the Russians were able to get it under control so quickly, likely because it is such a sensitive area. The Ukrainians have just not put up much of a fight because they know what the outcome would be. But, you would think that if you were Ukraine, that would have been that would have been the place where you installed a lot of defenses to use it as a shield. I mean, that you would think that they would have put a lot more into locking that place down. Now, because Russia is supposedly engaging in a special military operation and not total scorched earth war, I guess the idea is that the Russians aren't turning off the power. They're letting the power flow to Kiev, and wherever else that power goes to, it probably powers a lot of places in Crimea and, southern and eastern Ukraine as well. But it's a mystery to me, this whole nuclear thing. Now, there was suspicion. I'm presuming there must have been a lot of suspicion about the Ukrainians' ability to enrich uranium to a point where it could be used in terms of a nuclear weapon. And there was talks of Zelensky before the war starting about getting nukes, making these allusions to potentially becoming we might as well just get nukes if, we're going to be, under the constant threat of invasion. And so that's when, of course, Russia made their move. So there's just a lot of mystery around it. Anyways, 9 guys, getting to the point. Sorry for rambling on. 9 soldiers were injured in some kind of explosion. A few died, apparently, at the Zaporizhzhia power plant. Okay, and supposedly the reactors were reduced in their capability. Now, this is coming from Ukrainian news sources. And a lot of the language, they're using the usual language like orcs and occupiers and terrorists and stuff like that. Understandable, okay? But you just got to take it all with a grain of salt. But there's a lot of mystery surrounding this. This is from Reddit, so you just never know. But, there's always a grain of truth, a kernel of truth to this stuff, I should say. So anyways, there was this incident at the nuclear facility. We know that the West has been shipping all kinds of radiological protective equipment to this facility. And if the Ukrainians do this counteroffensive in early August, my concern would be that this could be a potential flashpoint and that there could be a nuclear incident. Now, again, this is the reasons why they're not going to attack it is because it would be shooting yourself in the foot, literally, because you would not have energy, you would not have electricity if you destroyed this power plant. Even if you were to take out the Russian forces there, it would be for naught, because now you'd be incapacitated to do anything beyond that. So a very, very tricky situation. There was also apparently a power plant official abducted by Russian forces. The Ukrainian nuclear power plant company said that Russian forces abducted Ihor Kvashin, the head of environmental protection services of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in southeastern Ukraine. Why would they kidnap this guy? Is he necessary? Did something happen at this power plant that they're worried about? Because remember, they need the people to work. And not that the Russians don't know nuclear. There's 38 nuclear power plants in Russia. They're one of the biggest producers of nuclear weapons in the world. They understand nuclear. But again, I'm sure they don't just have a bunch of nuclear engineers to throw around either. So they need these guys who know how these facilities work. I don't know what sort of arrangement they have with these guys. Are they under constant custody? I don't know. But something's going on here, guys. This is going to be in the news soon. So just keep your eye on it. The result of that emergency meeting last week, it's come to light that there are some shocking details, of what happened at a recent meeting with the State Duma are being conveyed by Russian military sources who have revealed that preparations have begun to expand operations with the aim of occupying 40 to 45% of Ukrainian territory. They already have about 20% of the territory and have about 6 million people under their thumb, some of which want to be there, some of which don't. They're saying that they're absolutely going for at least 40 to 45% of the country. So you're talking about Kharkiv, the Zaporizhzhia region with the nuclear power plant, and Odessa all the way to Transnistria. That's for certain. What happens with the rest of the rump state of Ukraine that remains after that is unknown. I'm guessing, though, that the war is going to continue north and westward because, rightly so, the Ukrainians aren't giving up. But at what cost? At what cost? They're willing to destroy the country. And I say there's outside forces acting here as well. And, we have to ask the question, who's acting in whose interest here? Anyways, what else do we have to talk about today? There is suspicion that the HIMARS system, the 300-kilometer range missiles, have already been supplied to Ukraine. There's still talk about Ukraine using these to attack the Black Sea fleets, to attack Crimean Bridge, to attack different border towns and facilities, ammo depots in and around Russian territory, which of course is going to be a red line. And they've basically said it's going to be Judgment Day. You do that, we're firing our hypersonic Zircon missiles into your decision-making centers. End of story. According to the DPR, they claim that they already have these long-range missiles and they just haven't declared it yet, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's amazing to me that we're, if we are supplying them with stuff, why are we saying what we're supplying them with? It just, there's so much about this war that makes no sense whatsoever. You know what I mean? The EU is scrambling to replenish stockpiles. $500 million. $500 million. Take that to the bank, which won't even, break the surface of what they need to actually withstand a onslaught from the Russians if they decided to do it. Putin is now going to be equipping its naval fleet with Zircon missiles, hypersonic missiles, by the end of the year. The U.S. is fast-tracking a lot of their tests, and they claim to have successfully tested a couple hypersonic missiles, and they also are one-upping the Russians once again by putting into operation these satellites, which are supposed to be able to, constellation of satellites that can predict the path of these hypersonic missiles. I mean, the thing is, though, even if you can predict the path of the hypersonic missile, it's maneuverable. So the likelihood of being able to intercept them with missile defense. I don't know enough about it, but that's how they're attempting to neutralize that threat. Okay, so that's DARPA. Okay, that's their, you know, and they're also doing something else with this this X-37B secretive plane that's been up now for 781 days. One of the U.S. military's most secretive spacecraft, the Boeing X-37B, has set another endurance record by spending more than 780 days in Earth's orbit with no intention to land yet. You know, there's speculation on what this can do. Is it like an EMP generating device because it can carry nuclear warheads? Is it for the purpose of shooting down satellites? They don't know, or they're not telling us what it's about. But it was initially overseen by NASA, like most things are. Then it was handed over to DARPA. DARPA is the same people who invented the internet. They're inventing the killer robots that are going to dictate what and when we eat in the future. Anyways, guys, that's the report for today. Let me know what you think about any of the aforementioned. I hope I covered all the bases. Try to stay cool if you can. And yeah, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up and go and check out some of our older content. You know, I get a lot of message on here about how, you know, our more recent videos that are higher production, people are saying like, wow, that's the most well-produced video you've ever done. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, it isn't. You must be new here, okay? It's not just me editorializing to a really crappy camera. The majority of our content pre-6 months ago was far more educational and timeless in nature. So please go check that out. It's the videos with the thumbnails with the blue strip on the side. And hopefully you can actually get some, you know, workable, functionable content that can teach you something and you can actually put to use and is practical for the purpose of preparedness, okay? So you guys take care, stay safe, Canadian Prepper out.